across to France 24's James André standing by in Kyiv. James, good afternoon. Talk us through the beefed-up security you've witnessed at Kyiv's main train station.
Yes, absolutely. This morning we were able to visit the train station with the Kyiv police, and we saw how they are securing that strategic building, because it's important to note, but the trains are still running here in Ukraine despite the war. Now, of course, one of the main threats, along with the bombings that are hitting Kyiv at the moment, we saw one last evening here that did a lot of damage, is of course the saboteurs, as they are called here, these Russian infiltrated agents that are basically wreaking havoc on Ukrainian soil, and this is something that security forces here are monitoring very closely. Now, what they're doing, and we saw this morning, is basically checking the IDs of everybody entering the main station in Kyiv, but also the people coming off trains. They're checking bags. They had a canine unit also with dogs checking the bags for explosives, and they're also looking for drugs and alcohol, because alcohol has been banned here in Ukraine ever since the beginning of the conflict, simply because the government has been handing out assault rifles to people who are amateurs, and the idea was not to mix the fact that there are many firearms in circulation with the fact that people were potentially drinking. So that's one other axis of the work of the police at the main station. And then there is also a police psychological unit that is there basically to help families, to take the kids for a few minutes so that the parents can have a breather, also checking them for their mental health, given the stress people have been enduring here over the past few weeks. It's important to note that a lot of people going through that station are people coming from areas that have been bombed and shelled by the Russian forces.
And James, trains are operating at this point in time in Ukraine's capital city, despite everything that's going on.
Yes, absolutely. It can sound very surprising. Now, of course, trains to some areas that are basically impossible to access, such as Mariupol or Kyiv, have been stopped. But, for example, the trains between here, Kyiv, and Lviv, which is to the west, are working perfectly, and to many other cities across Ukraine. Now, that is surprising, but these trains are used by refugees to leave cities that they want to evacuate in order to put their family in a safe place, but also they are used by volunteers who are coming in from either the western part of the country or foreign countries, because indeed Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has called for international volunteers to come and form a foreign legion here in Ukraine to fight the Russians. Now, we met two of those volunteers who were in front of the railway station. They're French volunteers, and this is what they had to say about the reasons they decided to come and fight here.
He called for a maximum of people to join from all over the world, and we've heard that call. We'll always be there if needed. I've always said it's better to fight Russians in Ukraine rather than back home in France.
A lot of people were motivated after seeing civilians being hit by the Russian army. So plenty of volunteers came to fight here in Ukraine. The two of us have different skills, but we are both capable of fighting at the front line. That's not a problem. And if we have to give our life for Ukraine, we will.
So these two men are basically wanting to enroll themselves into the Ukrainian army and to fight alongside the local military.
James, thank you very much for that update. James André reporting there for us from Kyiv.